Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Movie Mates video. I am Matthew, once again joined by my wonderful co-host and best friend.
Callum.
Hey man, lovely to see you. So today on the 15th of January, Wandavision has just premiered across the world, or the first two episodes at least, and yeah, your favorite podcasters are back to talk about it. So I suppose like it's I think this is the first MCU project on Disney Plus, isn't it, bud?
Yeah, it is. It's the
Yeah.
first. It's the first ever TV show done by Marvel Studios. Before it was under the branch of Marvel Television. So
Mhm.
these are officially under the reign of Kevin Feige, whereas before they were sort of under the watchful eye of Jeff Loeb. So this sort of a completely different thing. I was secretly holding out hope that they would just dump all 9 of the episodes,
Yeah.
because sort of
Mhm.
every piece of promotional material in the UK sort of said streaming 15th of January. It never said, premiering 15th of January.
Yes,
I only ever
yes.
saw that on, uh, you know, foreign advertisements. So I was sort of hoping that they were going to do a surprise release.
Yeah, I did too. I did too. It's I suppose it's a little bit unusual as well that the first two episodes were released, and the run times actually are a lot shorter than I thought they would be. I think the first one is, we've talked about the credits of Pod. The credits are ridiculously long in comparison with the rest of the episode. So I mean, I think content wise, the first episode must be around the 25-minute mark, and the second one must be around 30 minutes. So it's definitely one of those shows where I think if it continues to be that kind of length, you can definitely binge it in a night or two for
Mm.
sure. And I think that's the strength of it because I'm not sure if we talked about it on the podcast before, but the Marvel Netflix shows, that they're definitely overly long. A lot of them, if not all,
Yeah,
13
massively.
episodes, 45 minutes to an hour long. So I'm sort of glad they went
Yeah, I've,
for
I've been
went
I've
for
been
the length one.
rewatching most of them recently.
Yeah.
I rewatched all of Jessica Jones,
Yes, I remember you saying,
Iron
yeah,
Fist
yeah.
season 2, Defenders, Daredevil season 3. Like that. That's all within the last month. Can you tell I dropped out of university? And now I'm on Punisher season 1. And
Love
yeah,
it.
they are just. I would say Daredevil season 3 is the only one where I wasn't like, can you cut a few of
Yeah,
these
no, I'm
episodes
exactly the
out?
same,
You
exactly
know,
the same as myself.
anytime like Will Simpson is on screen or Jessica's mom, in
God,
Jessica Jones, you're
it's
just like,
painful, man.
this could be cut for time.
Yeah.
Like season 1 of Jessica Jones is fantastic, but if it was 8 episodes of just a Kilgrave arc, it would
It's
be 10 times better.
so much better. But you're right. I think you're right, and I think with this show, WandaVision, we've heard a lot about it, and I woke up this morning, had a wee quick look on BBC and stuff, and those kind of websites for like reviews, and it seems to be taken really really well. People really love the show critically, and I can definitely see why. So just before we get in to talk about the first two episodes, thanks very much to everyone who supported us recently. We really do appreciate that massively. And please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on WandaVision down below. We'd love to hear them. And of course, our email is always down there, as well as time codes as well. So, did you want to open up with contextual remarks, buddy, or do you want to hop right in with episode one? What were you thinking?
Yeah, I just wanted to, briefly gauge sort of your excitement for the show.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to me personally, this is probably the most excited I've been for a season of television since Daredevil season 3, which came out in October of 2018. So it's been a long time, and
Been
I
a
watch a
while.
lot of
Been a while.
television.
Yeah.
But there's just nothing that I look forward to as much as Marvel television. Was it a similar sort
It
of sort of
was. It
headspace for you?
absolutely was. I think I'm so glad I've actually got a Disney Plus membership. It's definitely a worthwhile purchase for anyone who has the opportunity to do so. I definitely recommend it if you've got the resources. It's really good, and yeah, I was really excited for this one. I think the one I was most hyped for, quite honestly, was Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I still am. But One Division has got off to a really great start, so I'm still really excited for this. But I think the trailers of the show, it's really unpredictable as to where it could go, and I think that's maybe kind of like the aura and the sort of the mystery behind the show and what keeps you, or what will keep you watching in general.
Hmm. And if we want to briefly talk about, the characters of Wanda and Vision, for me personally, I would say that they're by far my favorite MCU couple. I mean, there isn't much competition. There's Ant-Man and the Wasp, which are like they've barely dated.
Yeah, it's true.
There really aren't that many. There's Captain America and
Yeah,
Peggy.
yeah.
The Marvel Netflix shows have Colleen Wing and Iron Fist, but like there really isn't much competition, and I think with the so little shared screen time that these characters have had, they've really impressed me.
Yeah,
And I was
for sure.
truly shocked when they killed Vision. and didn't end up reversing that in Avengers Endgame like all the other deaths from
Mhm.
Infinity War.
Absolutely.
But to me, obviously the context of this show is that Wanda or someone is responsible for the creation of this new sitcom reality in which Vision is now alive and they're married. But to me, he's still not truly alive, which is really the only thing that's holding me back from sort of my thrill for the series. No matter how
Yes, it's a
much I
good
love
point.
Paul Bettany's performance, like he's just a reproduction of the original Vision. He's not the Vision that
Yeah,
we
yeah, it's such a good point.
knew and loved.
Yeah, it
Is
kind
that
of
a
reminds.
phrase? Knew and loved? Like that just sounds.
We'll go with it. We've
I don't know.
invented it. One thing I really like about this show in general, contextually, is like it's very Truman Show esque in that sense. Like there's clearly something
Mm,
more ominous going on behind the scenes, and whether that's Wanda, whether it's someone else, as you said, buddy, it remains to be seen. But I think you're right, buddy. I think the fact that we already know Vision's fate, that this isn't the real Vision, there's no real twist in that, or maybe there is, but for me anyway, contextually, it
yeah.
doesn't seem like there could be. So yeah, it does hold me back from becoming fully invested in his character. But the Wanda character, I actually think, is the most compelling she's ever been. I think she gets better from movie to movie. Apart from Endgame, where she's like, of course, barely in it, but like I think there, if she had more screen time, she'd be excellent as well. I mean, for the brief sort of appearance she's great. But I really like when they just I mentioned this in a couple of podcasts. I just like when ordinary characters that you love are just doing ordinary, regular things. I mean, they're just hosting dinner
Yeah.
parties, they're getting ready for work. It allows you to grow more comfortable with the characters, and just it's nothing but good things from me, bud. From this, it's excellent.
Yeah, I think I read a figure that apparently throughout all the films that they've appeared in, Wanda and Vision have only to get like between the two of them, they have less than an hour screen time in the entire MCU. That doesn't seem possible to me
That's
because
mad, isn't it?
it
Yeah,
seems that they have
it's
they have
yeah.
10 minutes together in Avengers Infinity War. She has maybe 3 or 4 minutes in Avengers Endgame, and then in the I don't know. That doesn't seem
It
possible.
seems quite low, doesn't it?
Maybe it's shared screen time, but like yeah, that just seems like an impossible figure to me.
Yeah.
But I was gonna mention something else, and I have forgotten, which is
Well,
never great. Oh yeah,
okay, go for it.
I was gonna ask you about your perception of how Vision is being brought back, because either there's two ways to look at it. It's either that reality is being warped so that Vision is brought back to life, or Vision has been brought back through the warping of reality. Like
Yes, I
there's
know
a
what you
slight
mean.
distinction
I know
there.
what
I
you
mean,
mean.
I've
Yeah.
basically said the same thing in two different manners. But what I mean is either reality has been changed and Vision never died, so this is really
Yes.
Vision because of the warping of reality, or
Mhm.
Vision has been remade, a new Vision through the change of reality because of whoever's powers that are in control of this.
I think that yeah, for me in my head, I think probably the most likely explanation is probably Wanda, and we see in as the course of the two episodes, and her abilities and stuff, she's clearly mastered them a bit more. But I don't know, like part of me sort of wants to go for like an sort of a really out there theory that it turns out it's like the the face swapping gizmo that Black Widow uses in the Winter Soldier or something, that it's just an shield agent disguising
Oh
himself
no,
as Vision. But that would probably be quite
no,
terrible.
dear God.
but
No, I think what Marvel wants us to just swallow is the fact that this is like real original recipe Vision, just
original
brought
recipe. I
back
love
by Wanda.
it. Yeah.
I think they want us to accept that this is the Vision that we've seen the entire time,
Yes.
and
Yes.
his death has just been reversed. But I don't think I can accept that. He just feels like a new character to me.
He does. He absolutely does. And I think partly in that is probably due to the setting of the TV show in the first two episodes. Elizabeth Olsen, like her interpretation of Scarlet Witch has changed so much since Age of Ultron. From the accent to just the way the
Yeah,
character is comedically. Even it's like a totally different character. And part of me actually really likes that as well, because clearly Scarlet Witch in the comics has probably gone through a massive transition as a character, and is quite, I suppose, is famous in a lot of storylines for being a little bit unstable, and those kind of things. And I think it's really
yeah.
brought forward here the fact that there's clearly like there's throughout the show, even though it's there's a lot of comedy in there. Quite honestly, there is a sense of like a real sense of like an ominous foreshadowing, isn't there?
Mhm. Yeah, especially within the dinner party that we see in episode one. But
Absolutely.
you mentioned
Yeah.
her accent, and halfway through episode one, my brother just went, "What happened to her accent?
Yeah,
Like,
I know.
did they
I
even try
know.
to
It's
explain that?"
yeah,
And I
yeah.
was like, I had to give him like the MCU explanation, which is that Black Widow trained her as a spy, so she phased it out in order to like not stand out.
Auto
But that's
chestnut.
just it's the dumbest thing I've ever
It
heard.
is dumb. That is their dumb. Yeah, I actually, it's weird because the show actually in the first episode goes out to explain that yes, she is from Sokovia, so it sort of brings attention to it, like it's
Yeah,
even stranger. But yeah,
and he's like, "Here is my European wife,"
yes,
and then
I
she
know.
just speaks in
Yeah, I
a
know.
normal
It's
American.
crazy, absolutely nuts.
And this series, we all expected it to be 6 episodes, and then recently it was revealed that it would be 9,
Mm.
which is obviously now the our expectation for it. Uh, would you have preferred 6 longer, more focused episodes with the sitcom tropes lasting until episode 4, or would you rather these 9 shorter episodes where the sitcoms go on until episode 6? Like, because for me,
It's a
I
good
think it's
question.
possible to get the story across in a shorter time. I think the remaining episodes will be a bit longer. I think that's why they had the 2 episodes for the premiere, because these added up together, including credits, to about an hour, and I would imagine the rest are going to be probably between
Yeah, you'd
45 and
think
50
so.
minutes.
Yeah.
But I just feel that a shorter runtime, where they get into the action earlier is usually the better course of action.
I think you're right. I think you're right, buddy. And it does intrigue me, like we sort of said at the start of this review, about the shorter episode run times. And I think you're right. I think they will be a lot longer as the season progresses. But I don't know. It's because I think it's maybe because I just really enjoy these characters. The more time they're on screen, the better for me, anyway. And I just hope the show doesn't wait too long until it reveals a twist. It's always a risk with a TV show, isn't it, Bud? Where they build up to a twist, then they have to unravel every plot line within one episode or
Mm.
two. That's a dangerous thing, and it just
I
worries me.
mean, Paul Bettany has sort of said something to this effect.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, has he?
he
Yeah.
said episodes 1 to 3 pretty much straight up sitcom. He sort of pitched it as though it's a film with 3 acts. The first act, which are episodes 1 to 3, is like sitcom tropes. But through to episode 6, they're progressing through the decades. But 4 to 6, they recognize there's something amiss, and then 7 to 9 is like full blown MCU action apparently.
I love that. And I think that it really gives a promise that like it started so strong and it's going to finish strong as well. And it really intrigues me to see where it's going to go. I just worry that that could perhaps lead to a tonal mismatch between the start. And I suppose that is intentional. I don't expect it all to be like a 1950s, 1960s sort of aesthetic with the sitcom, but it's it's interesting because I remember one thing you had mentioned to me off pod was that you said they filmed this in front of a live studio audience, and I didn't think it would actually work when watching it, but
Mhm.
it really does. I think it really adds a lot of charm to it, a lot of class.
Yeah, it was the first episode that was filmed in front of the live studio audience,
Yes,
because
yes,
I
that was
think
it. Yeah,
that there's a fair amount of exterior shots in episode 2, so I feel it was presumably just impossible to do, even though
yeah,
it has pretty much an identical aesthetic. It's just the fashion that really changes. They're in the same house. They have the same jobs. It's pretty much a continued narrative.
yeah,
It just looks a bit different,
yeah.
and obviously the filming style was different. But with the 9 episodes, it is a bit of a double-edged sword, because obviously with 9 episodes, you get to spend more time with these characters that you love, but also sometimes the narrative can take a hit,
Yes,
that is maybe
yeah.
too dragged out. But I trust this show, and I think the fact that it had 9 episodes gave it the room to just have one episode that was just a sitcom with no even uh, you know like no perception that there's something amiss. That sort of comes into play a bit more in episode 2, and we'll obviously progress further and further until we unravel the full mystery. But I think having the first episode, sort of having the comfort to breathe, and give us an episode that was a pure sitcom,
Absolutely.
was really fun.
Absolutely. For sure, bud, for sure. I think the fact that it's 9 episodes rather than six, it would kind of be a bit of a bummer for me because if it was six, we'd already have watched a third of the show. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
where it's the nine, we've got a few episodes, as you said, we've got room to breathe there with the show and sort of enjoy it a bit more. And it's going to be interesting. I'm not too sure. Is it releasing weekly on Fridays then, or what's happening?
It seems so, yeah. And
Yeah, well,
then
that's good.
up there will be, as soon as this show ends, there's going to be a week's break, and then Falcon and Winter Soldier starts.
Oh yes, that's gonna be good. That's gonna be good. So plenty of content coming, I suppose, then for the show, which is always nice, always nice. And i- in terms of like, did you want to go into episode specific notes, Bud, or is there any other contextual remarks you wanted to bring up?
I had nothing further, so yeah, I sort of had my notes broken down into each episode.
Nice one. Well, one thing that we mentioned off podcast today was that the adverts in between the halfway point of the shows was a really smart move. I think, I think in the first episode it's a Toastmate 2000 by Stark Industries, which is
Hmm.
always a nice little reference there. And then episode 2, it's like sort of the Baron von Strucker Hydra Watch or something like that, or the Strucker Hydra Watch, which is so unusual for that to be included in like an advert in America,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's quite strange. But yeah, it's just a really great move, isn't it? Really smart.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, it's obviously pulling stuff from Wanda's memory and, projecting that. And, of course, she was experimented on by Baron von Strucker. Have we
Yes,
said that
yeah.
we're talking spoilers? We're talking
We're
spoilers,
talking
by the way.
spoilers.
I'm sure
Yeah,
you'll say that in
listen.
the description.
Yeah.
But full spoilers. Obviously she was experimented on by Baron von Strucker, and it was Stark weaponry that killed her parents.
Hmm.
There's obviously the connection that she knew Tony Stark, but I assume this is pulling from her past and the fact that they saw Stark written on the missile that then blew up their house.
It's a really good
So
point, actually. Yeah.
I think that's maybe a sort of I think there's an implication there that maybe we could see Quicksilver, if they're pulling stuff from
Hope
her
so.
childhood,
That'd be great.
even potentially a child version
I'd love that.
of
Yeah.
Quicksilver. I
Yeah.
think maybe Aaron Taylor Johnson coming back is maybe a bit of a long shot, depending if this is a mini series, because it's kind of unclear. I think
Yeah.
it is billed as a mini series, which obviously says that it would be one season. And I think if it was one season and this is Wanda's big story, I think they'd have to bring him back.
You'd have
But I
to,
think
wouldn't
if
you?
there's
You
room
really
for
would.
season two, if there's room for season two, I think he could appear there. But if it's
Mhm.
one and done, I think he needs to come back.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right, bud. I think you're right. And I think the fact that, yeah, like you said, this is Wanda's arc, this is her story. I think it's really nice to see those sort of references to, Stark Industries, and then I actually totally forgot about the Hydra link there, which is interesting as well. And yeah, I think you're right. If Quicksilver comes back, that'll be a great twist that not a lot of people probably saw coming. I think that would be, no pun intended there, actually. But yeah,
Yeah, that was good.
yeah, but yeah, I thought that'll be good. That'll be good.
And we've talked about the fact that it was filmed in a live studio audience, but what we need to mention now is that it's, of course, in black and white.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked a lot about the integrity of black and white filmmaking because, of course, we've talked about, films like Citizen Kane, and then the modern, context piece of that, which was Mank.
Yeah.
And how we talked about it was sort of a move with high integrity that they had that Mank filmed in black and white.
Mhm.
Even though they didn't use sort of the technology of the time in that film, that it was sort of it was a nice trope to use, in order
It
to reflect
was.
old Hollywood. And here it's 100% necessary. I think if you're presenting a 50s or a 60s sitcom, it needs to be in black and white.
It
So
does.
I
It
I
does.
fully respect their
Oh, for
decision to
sure.
do it.
Absolutely.
Obviously they don't really use the same techniques in Mank to make it sort of seem like the technology of the time. It is crisp, it's crystal clear. But I don't have a grudge with that, this time. But when I watch things like Black Mirror Metalhead or Roma, two sort of big black and white pieces of the last few years, I get furious.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
like I don't know what it is because I don't watch a lot of black and white filmmaking, but I just feel like it lacks integrity.
Yeah, I think with black and white filmmaking, it almost gives an excuse for the filmmakers to say like this is a very classy project, and in some
Yeah.
instances it's just not the case. But I actually think here it really stands to reason that it adds a lot. Especially like you said, by the other techniques used there. The aspect ratio is shifted to be like a square in the screen, sort of 1950s, 1960s esque, and no, it's absolutely marvelous. Like for me, quite honestly, I think if like you were saying, if it was done in color for the first two episodes, it would have been a mistake.
Yeah, I definitely do agree with you. It is usually a project screaming, "Look at us, we're special. Look at
Yes,
us, give us
yeah,
attention,
yes, it
give us
is,
an
isn't it?
Oscar,"
It absolutely
and
is.
it's usually like it's usually not even a good project. Like I could not get through most of the Black Mirror episode Metalhead because it was a terrible narrative. It was about like a post-apocalyptic future where people were chased by robotic dogs, and I was like, I can't do this to myself. Like it's the only episode of Black Mirror I haven't
Yeah.
finished. I was like, I can't do this.
Hmm.
But another TV trope that we see within the fictionally created sitcom of Wanda's life is the charming theme song and intro of her marriage
Yes.
to Vision,
Yeah.
and
It's
I
fantastic.
massively respect that they don't respect they don't break the illusion of the fact that Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany are actors in the show. You know, the opening of the show is talking about the stars of the show within the show.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. But in the actual WandaVision animation and theme song of the fictional show is actually fantastic. And it's really catchy. And
Mm.
it's weird. It's funny you say that, 'cause, especially in episode 2 when they show the animation of like Vision accidentally swallows some gum, and it ends up like it shows like the childish animation of like it fucks up with all his gears and stuff. Absolutely hilarious. I absolutely love that. By the way, viewers, important bit of information. Our friend Cash has confirmed that he will be back in the podcast this Thursday.
Yes,
Yes, so we're
we
buzzing.
will be
We're
talking about
buzzing.
the premiere episode of season 5 of Riverdale.
Yeah, just
We haven't seen Cash in a while.
I know, hot off the press. He's wanting to know, Callum, when is the first episode coming out? It is Thursday, isn't it?
It's coming out on Netflix on Thursday.
Lovely stuff here. So look forward to that. Look
Do you
forward to
think
that.
is he free Thursday evening? Do you think?
I think I just messaged in there. It's Thursday, so hopefully he's going to get
Wonderful.
back to me and say. But nice one. But yeah, sort of what you were saying, like the whole animation where it's like the gears and Vision and stuff. It's absolutely brilliant, isn't it? It's just smart. It's really well done.
Yeah, and you know, you said that this is sort of a very different point, more about the concept of the show, and it's really I should have mentioned this in the context points, but I made the note here, that you know the show is obviously about you know we know that in future episodes like Jimmy Woo and Sword will be involved, so we know that we're returning to like the MCU at large,
Yeah,
but really I think this show would have worked you know, equally as well as just a live action what if adaptation of
I
like the
agree.
Vision
I
family story
absolutely
arc.
agree.
I
Yeah,
really don't think it needs the MCU connection. Like I was watching the sitcom and just thinking this has like almost no reference to the MCU and I love this. Like if this was just the show and there was no like, you know, things amiss, if it was just Wanda and Vision's like, you know, as you said, you know, you just like seeing characters that you love be happy and do regular things. And like just seeing their, you know, like if this just was just a black and white what if story of their life in the 50s, I just think it's
it's so good.
incredible. Like
I
I would have happily watched a season of that show.
I agree. I think it would potentially benefit my enjoyment more if there was less MCU references in there. And the fact that there's some subtle ones as well is always fine. But it's just the fact that it's basically just like a romantic comedy set in the 50s with characters that you love and stuff. But it's absolutely marvelous. It's really well done. Really well done.
And I think the main reason that we feel that way is just because of Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany. Like Elizabeth Olsen in these 2 episodes is absolutely delightful, and Paul
He
Bettany is
is.
clearly having like the most fun that he's ever had in his
Yes,
career.
he is,
You
isn't
know,
he?
he's used to just like, you know, he's used to just getting a call and being like, you know, we'll send you over the script. Can you just like record these lines and then
Yeah.
email them to us?
He
You know,
looks
like
so bubbly though.
he's used to having like
Yeah.
yeah, he's used to having like almost no involvement in these films. And you know, he said he hasn't even seen Iron Man because he had almost no involvement in it. And you know, now that he's you know able to you know come into his own and act in live action, and he's finally given the screen time and the
100%
creativity and
Callum.
the freedom of a
100%.
television series,
Yeah.
he's just clearly having so much fun.
He
And I
is.
think this is my favorite performance of his that I've ever seen. Like he
Yeah.
said, I was watching an interview of his with Jimmy Kimmel, and he said that he's never done sitcoms in his life, but sort of playing to the live audience made him realize that you know that might be something that he wants to do in the future because I think he seems entirely in his element.
I agree. I absolutely agree, buddy. And it pained me to see in some of the reviews that people said his performance was stale. I thought it was anything but that. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of Stephen Merchant interviews lately, and he really does remind me. His delivery and comedy is so much like Stephen
Oh
Merchant,
yeah,
and isn't it? Like I absolutely love that.
yeah.
And I think he's this is my favorite performance of his career so far. By the way,
I think it's maybe potentially that you know all these reviewers are American and they maybe just
yeah,
don't get the because he's being very British, like he's very
yeah,
Hugh Grant, you know,
yes, he is.
sort of
Yeah, he
you
is.
know like stuttering Englishman. So
Mhm.
I feel like maybe that just doesn't appeal to the wider audience outside of the
Yeah.
UK.
Yeah, Cash has just messaged saying, "Could we do Friday? Is that okay? Because he's got school on
Yeah, of course,
Thursday."
yeah,
Nice one,
yeah.
awesome. So stay tuned, guys.
Or like we can do Saturday, whatever he's most comfortable
Yeah,
with.
nice one, awesome. But yeah, stay tuned, guys, for that as well. Anyway, but yeah, I know. I think you're
I
right.
think he said you know he maybe only wants to be involved in the Riverdale episodes like you know
Yeah, no,
like
understandable. The big
the
ones,
tentpole episodes,
the
because I
big
feel like
boys.
just every week him having to like crush his soul by watching that show.
Yeah, yeah. We wouldn't want to be the result of like him, like,
A
not.
breakdown.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, Paul Bettany, I think he's in his element here. You're right, 100%. So is Elizabeth Olsen. So is Elizabeth Olsen as well. It's
And I
great.
think the biggest question off the back of this episode, because it is, lightly, the question is lightly thrown out, and me and my brother were speculating a bit. The question of who is doing this, because the marketing material obviously has the line that is then in episode 2 of Jimmy Woo, asking Wanda who's doing this to you, so the implication of Sword, the belief of like their organization is that someone has trapped Wanda in this reality, but Wanda seems to have control over it. She seems to, you know, obviously, she has her full powers, and she seems even more powerful than we've previously seen her. So she seems to have a lot of domain, a lot of power over this domain. So I suppose it's just the question of, I feel like though, we're obviously aware that she's going to be involved in Spider-Man 3 and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So, we know that she's going to have, a mental breakdown, and, there's going to be consequences for the multiverse.
Yeah,
But she can't be the main villain of the series. It just seems too obvious. Like,
yeah.
would Marvel really be that, like, would they really construct a mystery of who's doing this and then be like, it's Wanda?
I
Like,
think
it just seems
yes.
a bit of a slap in the face to the intelligence of the audience.
I think for me, if I was going to put out a theory, I'd probably say it's maybe revealed that Doctor Strange is trying to help her, so to speak, and then he's accidentally
Yeah.
like realized that she's a lot more powerful than he had first imagined, and the person who's actually who's doing this to you, Wanda, it's actually Stephen Strange trying to help her or something like that, and then that's how it ties into
Okay.
those movies. That'll be where I would probably be leaning towards, but it's interesting to see. But like we were saying, I would almost like it if it did. Obviously, it's sort of a little bit upsetting that you're probably going to end the show not with a happy ending. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of
Yeah.
because I really like them together, and it's kind of a bit of a bummer that yeah, this plot line is going to be continued on in further movies, thereby hinting it's probably not going to end how we want it.
Yeah, it's obviously going to end with Vision no longer being in the MCU. Like this is going to have to be his last appearance logically. Like I can't see
Yes,
I can't see
yes.
a way where she, breaks down and has this tragedy if he isn't part of that tragedy. I mean, what would be a potentially likely outcome is the fact that uh is the fact that like Mephisto is responsible for this, Marvel's version of the devil, because he
Yes.
obviously has big connections to Wanda and to her children in the comics. I'll not give too many details because my brother was asking me about that, and I gave him maybe too many details. And if it's closer, if the adaptation of that is closer than I expected, I may have ruined the entire show for him.
Oh
I
well.
suppose it depends. I mean, are you sort of aware of
I'm
that
not
kind of stuff?
actually. I'm actually not. I'm not.
I think I'll probably not tell you because if
Okay,
it, I
just in
think
case.
it has to, at least have that storyline whether Mephisto is responsible or not, because Wanda in this show is seen in the marketing to have children. She's we find out in episode 2, which we'll be talking about right now, or soon, is that that episode ends with the revelation that she's pregnant, and I think we'll see her her baby bump growing in episode 3, and then I think she'll probably have the kids in episode 4. So
Yeah.
there are links with Mephisto and her children, and I think maybe Mephisto may be in the mix, and he's rumored to be played by, well, Evan Peters has joined the cast, as I told you, I think, and people are thinking he may be Mephisto, and I think that's a bit of good casting because he's sort of like charming, but he has kind of the Timothy Dalton that we
Timothy
described
Dalton.
in
Yes,
Hot
that's
Fuzz,
exactly what I was gonna
where
say.
he's charming, but
Exactly.
there's something sinister behind the
Yes,
eyes.
100%. One thing that in relation to what you said with the character of Mephisto, no, obviously, not. I'll not give too much away here, but there's obviously a storyline in the Spider-Man comics. I think it's called One More Day, where of course Spider-Man has an encounter
Mm.
with Mephisto, and then he has to trade something valuable in his life in order to protect his identity. I
Yeah.
think. So I'm actually thinking
I think
that
I think that storyline is he trades his marriage to Mary Jane Watson for Aunt May's life. Like I
that's
think
it.
she's died, and
Yes, that's it.
he
Yes,
wants to
that's
bring
it.
her back.
Yeah, and I think that could potentially be a plot line. Obviously, Scarlet Witch, as you said, and Mephisto could be involved in Spider-Man 3. I kind of hope that isn't the case because it kind of seems like there's a lot going on in that movie anyway, but it kind of it could provide that link, buddy, couldn't it, between the Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, and Spider-Man, if that One More Day story was going to have Mephisto in it, if you know what I mean. So it kind of
Yeah.
provides that theory as to how he's going to get over that sort of everyone knows his identity kind of thing.
Yeah, I think definitely there will be some sort of like I think it's too obvious to have this be the responsibility of Wanda. I think she's trapped by a malevolent force of some kind. She has some powers within that universe. She's able to change things, manipulate things, but she's stuck there. And she's given her ideal life, so why would she want to break out of that? I suppose.
Yeah.
But then I think something tragic happens to her, potentially involving Vision or her children, which then leads her to madness, and then she's responsible for the multiverse consequences. So I think if Mephisto is involved, I think it would probably be localized to this show, which I think would be wise, because I agree with you. I think if you have too much in Spider-Man 3 and Doctor Strange 2, it'll be
A
just
mess.
a clusterfuck.
I agree, buddy. Is there any more remarks from you, buddy, regarding the first 2 episodes of WandaVision?
Well, I just had a few more
Go
on
for it.
episode 2.
Go
I've
for it.
I've run dry on episode 1, but just what one bed, scandalous.
Yeah,
Slapping those
literally.
2 beds together,
I
dirty.
find
This is a PG.
Yeah, literally. I find it so strange when they don't share a bed. I was like, what's going
Yeah,
on?
that was a thing in the 60s, because it was a very all of the all of the production companies were very Christian, had a lot of like Christian ideology. So even between a married couple, they had quite a chaste portrayal of that. So I
Yes.
thought it was funny that she then joined the bed. That I was like, this is a PG, and then they sort of like flipped the covers over. I'm like, well, they've gone from like complete body separation to like
Yeah.
banging under the
Yeah,
covers.
I know,
Like
I
it
know.
was sort of like a 0 to 100 quite
Yeah,
quickly.
I really like sort of Vision's sort of like daring sense of humor. Like he's kind of like the British gentleman in some instances, but then he's like, "Wanda, dim the lights." It's kind of quite funny in that instance as well. And Paul Bettany is just
I
he's a
mean, what
really great comedic actor.
Yeah, I definitely think so. But what I don't understand is that they seem to have given Vision, and this is also apparent in the marketing, because we see him sort of like run to catch like a vase or something. That he now has super speed, which he never had before.
I think they
Like
say speed of
we
sound,
we
don't
see him,
they?
yeah, we see him with his super fast typing, and then we see him yeah, he's referenced as having super speed, and then within next week's episode, there's a scene in which he like travels, and he looks as fast as Quicksilver,
Yeah, maybe
at
that could
least as
be a
fast.
link. Maybe because maybe Wanda brought Vision back with those abilities because that's sort of like a reminisces Quicksilver. I don't know. Maybe that's
Oh yeah.
probably a I don't know because you sort of said the Strucker watch, the Stark Industries toaster. That sounds ridiculous, but like, do you know what I mean? Like it could be a potential
Yeah.
like she's things of her past that she's bringing into this new reality. I mean, I suppose it's not a realm of possibility, but I love to see Quicksilver back. Imagine Evan Peters though. Imagine him as Quicksilver.
I
That'd be a
know.
clusterfuck, wouldn't it?
Oh, and there's a line of dialogue within this. There's a couple of pieces of dialogue I want to talk about. One was the character of Dottie, which we meet in this episode, who's sort of like the queen bee of the neighborhood, and
Yeah.
I read a description that she rules with an iron fist, of the neighborhood, and there's a reference made to her being the devil, and with the question of is Mephisto responsible
That's
for
such a
this?
good,
Is
yeah,
the
it's such a
is
good
the
point.
universe's
Yeah.
devil responsible for this? I guess the question is she literally the devil?
Is she Mephisto?
But
Yeah.
she also seems to be captive, and her there's a moment where she cuts her hand and she bleeds red blood, even though they're in the black and white universe. So to me, that sort of seems that she is also a character that carries over from the real world, because it seems that some of these people, like Monica Rambeau, who's currently calling herself Geraldine, she's obviously from the real world, and she's also a prisoner currently, having presumably come from Sword to try and pull Wanda out.
Yeah.
She's currently a prisoner in that, being a person from the real world. It also seems that the nosy neighbor Agnes is also that same case. But then presumably some of these people are like a figment of imagination. They've been brought into this reality, like
Yes.
they've been created to be people in this town. Like I presume not everybody populating that town is someone who's been brought from the real world
You'd
into
think
this
so.
reality.
Yeah, yeah. I remember there was like an Avengers storyline in the comics called Pleasant Hill, where like Bruce Banner was kept in this village, and like everyone was supposed to be like very peaceful there, obviously, so that he wouldn't transfer over to the Hulk, I suppose. But it's a
Hmm.
very similar story that like everyone is like deceiving him that they're real people, but they're actually Shield agents. So I don't know if that's going to be the route they go down. It's just one of the things I love talking about with you, buddy, is like these theories. I remember we used to do it at school all the time when Civil War was coming out, and it brings me back to those days. So it's going to be interesting to see as well. And I actually think there's 2 points in the episode I kind of in these episodes I want to talk to you about. One was when Mr. Hart is like choking on his food. I was wondering, do you think Wanda was the one doing that, or do you think it was just a coincidence?
Yeah, that never occurred to me because I was like, why is no one helping him? And because obviously he was getting a bit aggressive. He was banging the table, trying to get this information out of Wanda.
Yeah.
And it honestly never occurred to me that she was responsible. And then my brother just went, "Oh yeah, she's the one doing it, isn't she? Like she was choking him. This is her reality. She's made this, hasn't she?" And I'm like, well, it just seems too obvious that she's created the reality, but it does seem
Yes.
that she has control over it. So I do think, I don't know, there seems to be a weird codependency where she can't have made the reality, I don't think, because obviously this is her ideal life, but she wouldn't trap people. She wouldn't keep people prisoner because we're aware that her mental state isn't 100%, and obviously I think by the end of the series it'll have been even further damaged. But
Yeah.
in the moment in Avengers Endgame where we only see her for maybe 3 minutes, but she seems to not have she seems stable enough there. Like I don't think she would willfully trap people within this dream universe. I think she would create people. If she was making the conscious choice or even the unconscious choice, I don't think she would trap innocent people. So I don't think she's responsible. I don't think she's responsible for the entrapment, but I think she's responsible for like the theme of the
Yeah.
prison. Like she's
Yeah.
she's obviously living her dream suburban life, but I don't think her mind has trapped people there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I wouldn't stick with the consistency of the character either for her to do that anyway, would it? And there's two other things I kind of want to ask you, buddy, what your interpretation of them was. One of them was that we see like outside Wanda and Vision's house in I think it's called what's the neighborhood called, like Windview or something like that?
Westview,
Westview. There's like a toy helicopter now. I was wondering, is that maybe a
yeah.
reference to something in Sokovia, something like that? I don't know. Could be something like that. I don't know. It's just it was an interesting deal because obviously this is a colored helicopter in this black and white world.
Yeah, it's actually one of like there was kind of unclear because they don't actually really like sort of zoom in on it, but in a TV spot that I had seen, they sort of go closer on it, and it has it has a sword logo on it.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's
Yeah.
presumably like there's been shots in trailers before where there seems to be some kind of bubble or something. It seems to be some kind of like psychic dome
Yeah.
put over somewhere.
Simpsons
So
movie
I think
style.
that there may be, yeah,
Yeah.
I think they were maybe trying to like fly a helicopter into it, and then as soon as something touches her bubble, I think you become, or touches the bubble of that universe, I think you become part of it. So obviously, like hell, like modern technology doesn't exist, so I think it was transformed into a toy, and presumably the people inside it are just eviscerated.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's true.
I think that's maybe how people how Sword have infiltrated her world. Like Monica Rambeau, I think they just walk through this psychic dome and they're changed into the kind of people that are populating
That's a
Westview.
really interesting theory. The last one, buddy, I was going to mention was the dude in like the bee costume. It wasn't in a
Oh yeah,
costume dressed as a bee, but like in a
yeah,
beekeeper costume.
in a
What's
beekeeper
that
suit.
about?
Yeah,
What's that about?
I have genuinely not a single clue. Like I was watching that because it occurred to me it might be like Jimmy Woo or something, but then you hear him on the radio in the middle of the episode and then at the end of the episode. So
Yeah.
he's obviously not entered her reality. He's somehow he's outside of it. So it's not, and I don't think it's anyone notable in Sword. So it seems like some sort of malevolent force. But I feel like I don't know. Putting them in a beekeeper suit seems like it's trying to be a reference, but the only bee-related villain that I'm aware of is like Spider-Man villain Swarm. Who's just like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh,
It's true.
he's just a skeleton covered in bees.
Bees.
But
Yeah.
obviously that's too niche a reference. So like I don't think it's gonna be that. I like. Did you have any thoughts? Because
No, and
I'm sort of stumped on that.
nothing at all, buddy. Nothing. This show, the way we're talking about it, it really reminds me of when we used to talk about Legion back in the day, when like we were trying to unpick
Oh yeah.
references in that show. It's a very similar tonally to that, isn't it?
Yeah, but is Legion like one of those projects like Tenet where it's kind of like it thinks it's so smart, but it's actually not. Like,
Yeah.
the reason it doesn't make sense to us is because
Oh
it doesn't
man.
make sense, not because we're not smart enough to understand it.
Yeah.
Like Tenet is a piece of trash. I'm sorry. Like I know people love Christopher Nolan. I don't think that many people love that movie. To be fair, I think people are quick enough to admit that that's one of his weakest films. But like the reason that that doesn't make sense to people is because it's a poorly constructed narrative, not because you're not
Yes.
smart enough to
Check
understand
out
it.
our tenant review.
That's yeah. Check out our Tenet review. I just trashed it for 40 minutes. But one big surprise of this show, I think the biggest of all of them, because I'd heard that this show was going to be, the first two episodes were just sitcoms with pretty much no indication that something's amiss. It's just episodes of a sitcom that you would see in the
Yeah.
50s or 60s.
Mhm.
And I think the biggest surprise for me is that it provided genuine laughs. Like there
It
were
did. It
several
absolutely
times
did.
throughout the episodes where I actually chuckled, and I don't laugh out loud. I think my brother being with me was maybe something to do with it, because laughing's like a social thing. You laugh more
Of
when
course.
like a joke is shared. I never sit in my room and like piss myself laughing at anything really. Like it is quite a rare
Yeah.
occurrence. But I was just sort of put it to you, because I'm sure you're the same. Do you think the like comedic reaction was because a sitcom of that era would still be funny to us, or do you think it's because of the characters that are in the situation?
I actually did. I was in the similar route. I found there was a lot of laughs in there as well, and it's interesting to see how they're gonna explore the laughing in the show and how the fictional show is gonna operate. In this setting. So, I don't know. I think the laughing was maybe like a figment of the TV show in the world, but it sort of seems like they're reality TV stars in Westview. So I don't know how it's gonna operate. But anything from you?
Yeah, when I mean laughing, I mean your own. I mean, like, do you think the comedy that came from these episodes was because sitcoms at the time were
Oh
funny and
yeah.
that we would still find them funny, or do you think it's because
Mhm.
we're familiar with these characters and we feel more comfortable, and because we love Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen, we find their jokes funnier?
I think
Is
it's
what I mean?
because I think for me anyway, it's because of Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany's influence. Like I can't really recall many old shows sort of before the '70s where I found them really funny. Maybe it's just a generational thing. What about yourself?
Yeah, I think the oldest sitcom that I've watched is That 70 Show, which is from the 90s. So I'm not really familiar with it's made in the 90s but in the style of the 70s. So
Yeah,
I'm not really familiar with any TV shows that look like the 50s or the 60s. So
yeah.
that this was sort of a whole new thing for me, because I was absolutely unfamiliar. So it was sort of a fresh change, and I think I don't know, because we sort of went back to old films, and I always have very low expectations of old films, and then I'm usually nicely surprised. Citizen Kane was obviously a much better film than I think either of us expected. But
Yeah.
even Miracle on 34th Street, which we talked about recently in our Christmas classics episode, it had genuine laughs in it, and it's from the
It did.
1940s.
No,
So
it
I
did.
I
It
don't think
absolutely
it's
did.
unreasonable to assume that sitcoms of the 1960s and the 1950s were actually funny. I mean, taste in humor has obviously changed, and we probably have even a more sarcastic sense of humor than probably the majority of the audience who are watching this show. But I don't know. I think it was the writing, and I think
I
the
think
writing
so.
for these episodes is probably similar to an era appropriate sitcom.
Yeah, I think you've smashed it there, buddy, to be honest with you. I think the humor is a great combination of the script and also like the physical humor that we've talked about before, Wonder Woman 1984 with Kristen Wiig in there. But I think here Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen really hold their own as well. Especially Paul Bettany, like he nothing but positive things from me regarding him. So yeah, I think it generally is quite a funny show as well, which surprised me.
Yeah. And we find out at the end of the episode, as we mentioned, that Wanda is pregnant, and we've talked about
Yes.
maybe how that might play into Mephisto, if Mephisto does show up.
Hmm.
But within the show, we know that she's going to have two kids, and in the comics, it's the same. But eventually, within the comics, her kids grew up to be two characters, two heroes within their own right, Wiccan and Speed, and became members of the Young Avengers.
Hmm.
And with the Young Avengers now being established in the MCU, with Haley Steinfeld playing Kate Bishop, and and with Miss Marvel showing up in her own show, and America Chavez, I think
Chavez,
the
yeah.
character's name
Yeah,
is,
I think so, yeah.
in Doctor Strange 2. And I think Patriot, sort of the young Captain America coming in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Clearly the Young Avengers has been established, but I was just wondering, do you think that they're gonna make her kids fully formed characters who grow up to be in the Young Avengers, or do you think that they're just gonna be used as a plot device to add tragedy to Wanda's life? Like, do you think
Oh,
they're
it's a
gonna
good
let these
question.
babies sort of walk out of this show alive? And even if they are alive, they've been created by a fake reality, through the change of,
Yeah,
like, through the warping of reality. It's not it's
it's a
not
good
like
question.
it's not like they weren't born as such. They were
Created, yeah.
created.
It's a really good point actually, because I think if you do establish them as characters from this TV show, it brings you or the audience already builds an established connection with these characters, so that would always be good. But I think for me, I think they're just going to be used as a plot device for Wanda's deteriorating mental health, I think. And it's not that I wouldn't want them to be their own character. I think the Young Avengers has real promise, but I would like to see them establish sort of an intermediate Avengers with maybe Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange, Spidey, those kind of people, and then maybe do the Young
Hmm.
Avengers after that. I think there's a lot of like I don't want the MCU to rush into the Young Avengers, because I still think they've got a lot of actors and actresses in their prime that could still do the Avengers as we
Yeah,
know it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it seems silly to waste all those
yeah,
characters on TV shows.
yeah. Especially because by the time the Avengers rolled around, all the actors within that were in their between their 30s and their 40s, and all the actors that all the actors who have been cast so far as the Young Avengers are between like 16 and 25. So they've still got plenty of years in them, and they're still going to be considered young 5 years down the line. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think there's definitely room to breathe, where you can definitely at least have Avengers 5 be spearheaded by the characters we know and love, and maybe Avengers 6 is where you sort of pass the baton. I think
Absolutely.
that her kids are, I feel like those characters are too big to completely ignore, but Marvel has made some weird slash stupid decisions in the past, where they sort of just
Yes, it has.
bin off quite important characters, or they sort of make a mockery of like big villains. And we've seen a lot of redemption in that. Where we now have sort of Baron Zemo and Batroc the Leaper, but both showing up in Falcon and Winter Soldier as more comic accurate versions. So I think there is room. Even if this show does end in tragedy, where her children don't make it, I feel like there is still room to change that, especially because her powers are uh her powers are very ill defined. So even if in the end of this series this reality is shattered and she no longer is with Vision and her kids, I feel like there's still a world
Yeah.
of potential for her to use her powers to bring them back. Doctor Strange 2 could easily end with Doctor Strange just tidying up everything, closing the multiverse. We've had our fun with the three Spider-Man. We've all had a good time, and then he resurrects her kids. Like, you have
You
no
never
idea where
know.
this is going to go. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
absolutely.
I think by the end of WandaVision, like, I think when episode 9 closes out, both Vision and her kids will no longer be around.
I think you're right. I'm exactly the same boat as you, Callum, to be honest, mate. I think you've smashed it there. And for me, I would actually quite honestly really enjoy to see the Wanda character in a really positive light, rather than sort of be like an anti-hero, or kind of a hero
Yeah.
who you can't really fully um control her abilities. And I think one thing that was really refreshing in the show for me, that the MCU has definitely referred to her as Wanda Maximoff before, I think, but it's the fact that we finally see it
Yeah.
in writing. It finally sort of put that thought in my head that shit, the X-Men will just be around the corner. So maybe they could introduce like a Magneto
Mm.
plot line in there as well. I wouldn't mind that, because obviously there's a big connection there in the comics with Quicksilver involved as well. So just the fact that they had that in writing, it sort of put that thought in my head, like I said, that could potentially be an avenue for that character to reappear down the line in an X-Men movie or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, in Avengers Age of Ultron, they established that a Stark missile had killed both her parents. Would you kind of like roll your eyes if they were like, haha, kidding,
Yeah.
their dad's actually alive and he's Magneto? I'd be a bit
Yeah,
like,
I
come
know.
on.
I know. You would. And it's
I'd be
going to be
like,
interesting.
you're just pandering to fans now.
Yeah, I know, and it's weird because I always consider the Scarlet Witch character to be more of an X Men character than Avengers. I mean, I think the first time I was really introduced to her character was in the show Wolverine and the X-Men, and
Yeah.
I think I actually think it is refreshing to see her as an Avenger, but I actually prefer the old classic where she was I think in that show she was like in a relation on again off again relationship with Nightcrawler or someone like that. So it was a little strange, but I actually think, yeah, she's one of those characters. she's so versatile. You could go anywhere, really.
Yeah, and I was just wondering, for me, she obviously started as, a minor villain in Age of Ultron, then
Yeah.
uh, then she, redeemed herself by the end of that film and became a hero. Like,
Uh-huh.
do you think it sort of betrays that character development to just be like, psych, she's a villain again? Like,
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like it's just a bit,
It's it's
it's a
it's
bit silly. Like, I
a bit
feel like
silly, yeah.
if you're gonna portray her at all negatively, it has to be that she's doing it inadvertently. Like,
Absolutely, you have to.
whether it's Mephisto manipulating her powers, but it's her powers that are responsible, but not her. I don't know. I don't want to see her make a conscious choice to hurt people because I think the character just seems so sweet and like
I agree,
she's just
100%.
delightful in these episodes. Like I feel like her making if she makes a conscious decision even after all the tragedy in her life, it just won't feel authentic to
Yeah,
me.
I think that's it. But it wouldn't feel authentic because Elizabeth Olsen's such a likable actress. So it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with that character. I mean, I hope they don't go down the villain road, and it's sort of it's another, as you said, buddy. Mystical energy or force who's causing her to act out like this. But I suppose that remains to be seen. Yeah. Any other remarks from you, bud?
Well, I was just going to ask you whether you had a rating for today's
Yes.
episodes.
Well, I'd say for the first episode, buddy, I thought it was a really great introduction episode. It really actually surprised me. I thought the show was going to be just average or just good. It was actually fantastic. I'd give the first episode an 8 and the second episode
Oh,
another 8. I think it's a really great show that you could
okay.
watch in the night and really enjoy it with the family. What about you?
Yeah. I thought it was tense, funny. I didn't feel that it required any MCU connection. I thought the acting is some of the best that I've seen from those actors.
Yeah.
It's genuinely some of my favorite television I've ever watched, and it's
That's great to
probably
hear.
it's I mean it's my favorite. From the impression that it's made, I think it's my favorite Marvel TV show so far. Daredevil is obviously high on that list. Jessica Jones sort of shit itself with seasons 2 and 3.
It did,
But season one's right up there. Daredevil is pretty consistent. With massive highs on season 1 and 3. But here, with like such a big impression that it made, it really feels like
It's lovely to hear.
it made a real impression. On Marvel television. And it sort of it proves that Kevin Feige should have been involved in those decisions all along. I mean, I would have loved him to have been involved in Daredevil and stuff, because then sort of shifting that character over into like the MCU proper would have been a smoother transition. But
Absolutely.
now there's a bit of division because he sort of, it seems that he doesn't like Jeff Loeb, who was sort of responsible for the development of those characters. So so those portrayals are a bit more likely to that there's a bit more room
Fall
for him to
apart,
maybe
yeah.
recast, which
Yeah.
is a bit upsetting. But honestly, there were a lot of questions raised here, but not a single criticism. So I would give both episodes a 10 out of 10.
I'm really, really happy to hear that, buddy. I'm glad you had such a warm reception to it. I think it's safe to say we're both really excited for next week on Friday when they release. Is it just one episode they're releasing next Friday? Do you reckon? Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. Well, listen, mate.
But
Absolute
also
pleasure. Go for it.
like all the people that were able to review this in advance, they were given like the first 3 episodes as screeners, and I kind of feel bad on their behalf because then they have to wait 2 extra weeks to get to episode 4.
Yeah, I
Like
know.
I
think we
I'm
got the good
sure.
straw.
Well, yeah, when it comes to movies, I'd love to get them in advance, but when it comes to TV shows, it just sounds like a shit deal to be like, here's the first 6 of 13, because then you have to like you have to wait until it releases
Yeah.
to then complete the journey. Like I feel like if you can like bosh it out in one day, like with a 13 episode series, that's ideal.
Yeah, 100%, buddy. Like I remember back in the day when Defenders and Luke Cage season 2 came out. I was just like, wake up, set the alarm, watched it in 13 hours. Like
Did
it
you
was.
finish Luke Cage season 2?
It's Luke Cage season 2. Yeah, yeah. I think maybe it was season 1.
Okay.
I watched in 13 hours, but like, dude, it was a brutal slog sometimes. But anyway, absolute pleasure recording with you today, buddy. Thanks for your time. Hope you guys
Thank
enjoyed
you.
today's video. It's probably a bit longer than we both expected. Again.
Yeah, I was like, quick again. Like we like, to be
We're
fair,
so
the
good. We're
context
too good.
went on longer than expected. But like we are usually like, yeah, quick 5 minute video, quick 10 minute video, or like I thought we'd maybe record episode 1 and 2 separately. Quick like, because I had literally 6 points for episode 2. Like I
Yeah,
thought
I'd literally
3
less than
minutes.
that as well. Yeah, yeah.
But I feel like we talk a lot about our projections for the rest of the series. So I really don't think any further episodes will be anywhere near this length, because
Yeah.
we'll be talking about We won't be talking as much about our theories, maybe ones that arise from the content of the episodes. But
Mhm.
I think this length is by far going to be the longest.
Yeah, I think so. Well, listen, mate, pleasure recording with you today. Appreciate you, buddy. And stay tuned, everyone. Cash will be back on this time next week for Riverdale. It's gonna be so. I'm actually so buzzing. I'm so excited for that now. But yeah, stay safe out there, everyone. Take care, and bye bye.
Bye bye.